All right, let me get a thumbnail. No, I'm kidding. Okay, you're not self-aware if you are anxious. If your anxiousness exceeds your awareness, then you're anxious. If your awareness exceeds your anxiousness, then you know where your anxiousness comes from and you can negate it. I'm going to pull up a graph here, and you're going to know this as the dunning-kruger effect. And what I'm telling you is it also applies to awareness. At the start, you will think that you are really self-aware. If someone introduces you to the concept of metacognition, thinking about your own thoughts, and then you will be like, oh, I've never done that. And if that's you, well, then okay, sure, you're at the bottom here. But assuming that you have had any coherent thought in your life, you will not be at the bottom here. So okay, you're either at Mount Stupid, which just means you've just discovered a thought like, oh, I'm anxious because I have to have this presentation, but if I were to not be anxious, I would actually be better and have a better presentation. So, that's if that's you, okay, you're at Mount Stupid, and you think that's like if you think that that's a really profound thought, and if you're not like, yeah, that's obvious, well, you're at kind of Mount Stupid, okay? And as you get more self-aware, if you have like some kind of a regular occurrence of understanding why you are doing something somehow linked to your childhood, then you start to realize, hey, I've discovered like 3 things or 5 things that I do that are kind of self-sabotaging or keeping me small in a way that's not necessary. Then you realize, oh, I'm actually not that self-aware, and you kind of crash and like, oh shit, if I wasn't aware of this, if I wasn't aware how I was raised in childhood, how that's affecting my relationships, that means I could be really open and vulnerable in so many other ways I'm not aware of, right? And then you're like, shit, I'm not self-aware at all. And then you kind of climb back up and you realize, okay, so it's because of that and because of that. And slowly you build trust again, right? And depending on who you are, you might overestimate yourself if you have if you're lower in neuroticism, you might go back up in the confidence quick. If you're higher in neuroticism, you might be like, oh, what if I still have it wrong? What if I still don't know anything? And eventually you will realize that your anxiousness is, like anything else, something that is designed to help you. Don't mistake being anxious for thinking, and don't mistake thinking for awareness. Thinking usually comes from the ego. Your awareness does not want an outcome. Your awareness is not tied to an outcome. And this is also, I just saw this, and it's a guy who talked about how hope and fear are just opposite sides of the same coin. And that makes sense. Why? Because both hope and fear are trying to get an outcome. Hope is you wanting to get an outcome, fear is you avoiding or wanting to avoid an outcome. But both are outcome orientated. Both kind of imply at least anxiousness. If you fear, obviously there's anxiousness, but even in hope, there's anxiousness. What if my hope doesn't work out? If you truly don't want to worry, the antidote isn't optimism. The antidote to not worrying isn't, oh, it's going to work out. Oh, I believe this is going to work out. Oh, I'm going to come up with a mental model on why it's likely that it's going to work out, or some kind of, I've tried so hard, karma has to be on my side for this one. Nothing like that. Okay, so the antidote to anxiousness is by doing things for the sake of doing them without being attached to an outcome. And yeah, in my own case, this is the result. Why am I making videos? I'm a young 20-year-old who probably knows way less than he thinks he knows, even while he's aware that he knows less than he thinks he knows. Okay, well, partially it's because exactly to overcome myself in some ways, and because I've realized that where fear lies probably also lies your freedom. If you can overcome your fear, your shame, then you will probably finally be able to do the things you want to do, because the only reason you would be ashamed of doing something is if you cared about it. The only reason you would be anxious about anything is about anything being bad is you would care about it being good. The fact that you are worried about something, the fact that you're anxious or ashamed, proves that you care. And then we might cover it up with our ego. Well, I'm not doing it. It's actually not that important. You try to rationalize your own fear because it's easier to say, well, it's my temperament. It's because of this. It's because of that. No, it's not because of anything but your own choice. And being anxious in this sense is a choice once you have the understanding that you could not be anxious if you chose to not care for the outcome but care for the action in itself. So if you actually want to be self-aware, okay, let me put it this way, you will cease being self-aware at this point, because you will realize that even the whole concept of self-awareness is rooted in a desire for control. And the only reason you would think about yourself is because you feel like you need to problem solve something about yourself. Once you have the awareness that you are awareness, and all of the struggles that you're experiencing are either physical, so they directly impact your health and your security in a physical sense, not even in a social sense, I'd argue, not even in a just, are you going to starve or are you going to be sick, um, and or totally isolated perhaps, sure, okay, if none of these things are going to happen because of an action that you're afraid to take, your fear is actually imagined and not real, because those are the things you're wired to care about, and anything else beyond that is kind of you extrapolating. It's kind of you making up things because they fit enough into that pattern of, you think, you believe that social punishment, that social rejection means isolation, but it doesn't. You'll still be fine if you get rejected. You're gonna be fine. And any reason that you think you're not going to be fine is probably just a misapplied identification of one of those main struggles of, am I going to be alone, am I going to be sick of, or am I going to starve? And if none of those things are true, your fear is just in your narrative, in your identity, and it's only as real as you want it to be, as you believe it benefits you. But that would lead me to talk about why you actually want to be anxious, why you actually want, but that would lead me to talk about the whole ego and everything, and that's for another video. This is just a short rant about, yeah, you're not self-aware. If you would be, you wouldn't be anxious. If you are more aware than you're anxious, you wouldn't be anxious. If you're more anxious than you're self-aware, you're going to be anxious. So, and by self-aware, I mean the closer you are to being awareness, I'd say. So, yeah. This is a rant. I'm going to make a part 2 on how to actually get there and be consciousness, and not just be anxious all of the time. But until then, just watch the Dance and Everything Shall Be Music. That's going to be the closest to that. Yeah, because that combines, if you are interested, that combines the Nietzschean idea of life affirming. And if you hear Nietzsche and you're on the internet, you probably have a lot of wrong conceptions. And I'm not saying this as any, I'm so smart. No, it's just like, I'm a fucking nerd. I have read 3 books of him and I'm on the 4th one. I've read Beyond Good and Evil, fuck. No, it sounds stupid. I've read it in German. I speak his language, so you can't hate on me. Ich habe Jenseits von Gut und Böse, die fröhliche Wissenschaft, die sich jetzt gerade. That's the gay science. And Thus Spoke Zarathustra, that's the one. Beyond Good and Evil, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, The Genealogy of Morals, and The Gay Science. But I've read all of them in German. Whatever, I'm not here to give myself credits, who cares? But you've probably you know Nietzsche, that's it. Have you read Nietzsche? No. Have you? No. Sure, that's hilarious. Okay, I'm just yapping. It combines Nietzsche and Buddhism. And you think, if you've read any Nietzsche, that those two don't align at all. And I'd agree with you. Nietzsche actually didn't like Buddhism. And I think it very valid criticisms of it. How it is actually trying to escape life, and it is life denial. And by resisting your own passions, you're actually resisting your life and all of those things. I agree with. But I think I've managed to build a bridge between all of the life affirmingness of Nietzschean thought and the lindering of suffering from Buddhist thought. And if you are interested about that, watch my video on surrender, but I'm going to make a better version of it soon in like 2 weeks or something. Or just dance and everything shall be music. Those two videos are gonna be here, pow. And yeah, this is my rant done. Yeah, see ya.